Want to see some of the best artwork in St. Louis? We found just the place for you.
Not only artwork, but history as well, and nature. In this week's St. Louis Proud, Ray Preston explains why you should take some time to visit a cemetery.
If you want to know about St. Louis,
art and architecture,
and its history, lots of history, take a look at its cemeteries.
Behind me is William Clark of Lewis and Clark fame.
Yes, that William Clark, one of the heavyweights in history. You know, we put up statues to honor people like him, and his final resting place is right here in St. Louis. Cemeteries are a who's who of St. Louis.
Adolphus Busch is here.
General William Tecumseh Sherman.
The Lemp family.
James Cool Papa Bell, he was buried in 1991.
Dred Scott.
Thomas Hart Benton, one of our first two senators.
Tennessee Williams.
So we wanted to take a closer look. William Clark is at Bell Fountain Cemetery in North St. Louis. Founded in 1849, 314 acres, more than 87,000 burials, and still less than half full. Daniel Fuller says 7, 8, 9 generations of Clarks are still around St. Louis.
You might be working with a William Clark descendant and not even realize it.
The men and women who made St. Louis what it is are here. Riverboat captains, Civil War veterans, beer barons.
This is the final resting place of Adolphus Busch.
Large in life and sometimes large in death. Families invest in their own mausoleums.
This structure cost $250,000 in 1921.
But sometimes some of the most important people in history, like Dred Scott and his wife Harriet, well, they have some of the most modest memorials. Dred Scott is buried in Calvary Cemetery. 470 acres, dates back to 1854. With 350,000 burials, only 2/3 of the cemetery has been developed.
We probably have room for the next 200 years.
Matthew DeWitt says it is awe-inspiring to see names like Dred Scott on a stone here. The monuments and memorials are truly works of art.
You think about the artisans, sculptors, stonemasons, the amount of people who have contributed to what we see here today.
Of all the people at Calvary, there is one that truly doesn't want to be here.
St. Louis was a city he hated.
The story goes that Tennessee Williams had a falling out with his brother, and it was his brother who decided where the famous playwright would be buried. At St. Peter's Cemetery,
I'm kind of proud to have him here at the cemetery.
he's talking about the man with arguably one of the coolest nicknames in all of sports, James Cool Papa Bell. The Hall of Famer may be long gone, but certainly not forgotten.
We have coaches bring their T-ball teams by. We get tour buses coming in.
Like the other cemeteries, St. Peter's is filled with beautiful artwork.
Done by hand. Nowadays they're doing all kinds of laser etching, computer work. They can shape stuff with computers and machinery, where most of this marble was done by hand.
It's said that we are all products of our past. If you want to find part of that past that St. Louis can take pride in, this is a place to look. History literally lying right at your feet. In North St. Louis, Ray Preston, News 4.